Well, good morning. I've been telling y'all for a long time I'm going to make a cinnamon roll video, and I'm going to do it today. So I hope y'all enjoy it, and I hope y'all actually make some cinnamon rolls right along with me. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do when making our cinnamon rolls is we're going to have 3/4 cup of milk, heated to more like room temperature, maybe a little bit warmer, not too warm. I'm going to add that to our mixer. And this recipe is very easy to do by hand also, if you're going to be doing it by hand. I like to put my milk in my cup first to help get the starter out. And you can see I have a lot of starter because I'm doing farmer's market right now. And it's nice and bubbly. I'm going to stir it down. Get my bubbles out. And this is an idea that I got from 7D Farm, because I usually will just pour my starter, but she gave me the idea. This is what she does, is that I'm trying to find a place to set this spoon. She uses a ladle, and my ladle will barely fit in and out of my jar. That way it doesn't all run up the sides of the jar and over the edge. But I need a little bit smaller of a ladle, I believe. And then you're going to put 1 cup of your starter. This is my sourdough cinnamon rolls. And they are great, great seller at my market, and everybody that eats them loves them. And a little bit more. I find that these are a nice soft cinnamon roll. I've made them with regular bread dough, and they're not quite as soft. Now, remember, I've already got my 3/4 cup of milk that's heated a little bit in there, and I have my sourdough starter. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my mixer. Then you're going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast, which my recipe actually calls for a teaspoon, but I use a tablespoon. Put that in there. And then you're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. 1/4 cup of sugar. Also 1 egg. 2 tablespoons of soft butter. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that up a little bit, mix that butter in. And then it calls for 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I'll go over my ingredients to make sure I have everything. That's 1 cup of starter, 3/4 cup of milk heated, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of yeast, and 1/4 cup of sugar. Now all that's left to add in is my flour. And I hope you can hear this over the mixer. And it calls for 3 1/4 cup of flour. And y'all, what I'm doing, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I'm using the back of a butter knife to slide off the top to make sure I have a true cup. That's 2. And this is a very moist dough. There's 3. And I'll do a 4th. There's really no kneading involved with this. Okay, I go over my list quite a few times to make sure I've gotten everything in there. Okay, I believe I do. Now this is my bowl that I have greased. I have a little oil in it, and I'm just going to rub it around on all the sides. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put this dough in a bowl and let it rise till it's doubled in size. Now my dough, it's raining today, and let's turn this off. It's quite moist. You see, it's a little too moist. I think I'm going to add another 1/4 of a cup of flour to this. And that's what you just kind of got to learn your bread and how the dough is supposed to be. But like I said, this is not going to be like a true bread dough. It's going to be a little softer. But that's just a little bit too moist. I believe that's doing a little bit better. It's coming off the sides a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to get a little bit of oil on my hands to pull this off of the paddle. Now, if I wasn't going to be using my mixer again, I would just leave it in this bowl and get more oil on my hands. I would get it down together. But if you want to see how it looks, it's definitely much more moist than bread dough. And I just scoot my hands around the edges to get it more in a ball. And put a little more oil on my hands. You could do this with flour also, but I don't want to make my dough too dry. When I put it out on the counter, I'll use a little flour. Because if your dough is too dry, it doesn't rise up as well either. Okay, there, I have that out. I'll turn it where I'll have oil on both sides. And I'm going to cover this with saran wrap. And I'm going to let it rise till it doubles. And this will take about an hour. And I'll be back to show you how I roll them out. Okay, my dough has actually been rising for about 2 hours. I was busy doing some other things, so I left it. And so this is how it looks. See, it's very, very moist bread dough. So you're going to use a little flour with it. I have my flour here, and I'll sprinkle it on. Put that to the side. I just want it dry enough to work it. And I get it to have an oblong. And then you just have to play with this. Sometimes I roll it out. It's a nice square rectangle shape, and sometimes it kind of looks different. So anyway, just going to roll it out. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. And I love this rolling pin that we got at Baker Creek last year. We bought it. Tommy got it for me, and I really, really like it. Excuse me. Okay. And you can kind of scooch that in with your hand. I don't know if y'all can see me do that. I like to try and get my corners. I like to get it as square as possible. or as rectangle as possible. So there you go with that. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do once you get your dough rolled out, you're going to add about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half to 2 tablespoons of butter, melted butter. And I put it in the middle because I've run it off the edge before and it gets wasted. And then you're just going to spread this around with your hand. Some recipes call for just room temperature butter, but I find that I have a hard time spreading it on the dough, so I like to use melted butter. And get it on your edges good, because that's going to help seal your edges once you roll it up. Okay, there we go with that. And then you're going to mix up in a separate bowl 2 tablespoons of sugar. I use heaping tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, heaping, and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and you'll mix that all together. Now I do it in bulk because I make a lot of cinnamon rolls, so I've done the same thing, multiplied out, and there's my written down right there. And then you want to sprinkle it over evenly over your dough, and you can do it lightly and then come back and do more if you have some left. And if you like more than that, you can always mix up more. I believe since I'm doing it in bulk, I'm putting a little more because I like a good covering of it. But it's just to your taste. And your ends don't always turn out pretty. Of course, I'm doing these for sale. So what I'll do is I'll keep my ends, if they're not pretty, and put them in a pan to the side, and I feed that to my mom for breakfast. I bake those for her the morning of the farmer's market. That looks good. And you're just going to take your dough from the edge and start, and see this part's longer here, no big deal. I start rolling there, and I'll just keep working my way down, and that's okay that there's a little flour on there. That's what's kept it from sticking to my counter. Sometimes it's a little stuck and I'll grab some flour and scooch under there like that. And just work it all the way down. Very simple. And I'm going to pick my edge up and pinch it. Once I get close to the edge, and I pinch it on there. This one's a little long, so they all turn out a little different. Now get that pinched up good. Now I'm going to roll this over where my edge is on the bottom. And then I'm going to scoot it together. And you know, if you have if yours turns out extra long, you can just cut thicker cinnamon rolls. This recipe will make about 15 to 18 cinnamon rolls. Decent sized cinnamon rolls, about like that. And I'm going to show you my end piece. Let me get my tray. I've got my tray already sprayed with cooking oil. I'm going to set that over there. And see, this first one I cut, you see it's not real pretty. I'll show you how. I cut them about that thick, but you see you've got your nice little swirl in there with that. And I just keep cut them and put them on the pan. And I don't like to cut the whole thing because it starts sticking back together. So I'll cut a few and put them on the tray. And then and see how it seems like it's getting thick? You can always squeeze it and make it get a little bit longer. Kind of pat it out. There's my end. Okay, now I have my tray of cinnamon rolls done. And at this point, you're going to just take your hands and squish them down. I guess you could let them rise from like this and they would be a very tall cinnamon roll. That's just not the kind that I make. Now, at this point right here, they could go into the freezer. And you could freeze them and take them out the night before you're going to bake them for the next morning. I take them out about 9 o'clock at night and I just put them in the oven and let them rise there all night. In the morning, I take them out and I bake them. I take them out of the oven, warm my oven, and then I put them back in to bake. Today I'm doing a Tuesday market, so I'm going to let these sit here and rise till they're doubled. I really find that they get bigger once they've been frozen. But anyway, once they're finished rising for another hour or so, I'll come back and show you how they look and we'll get them baked. Okay, my cinnamon rolls have risen. Like I said, when you rise after you've frozen them, they seem to rise better. They've been rising for a couple of hours now. So now they're going into a 350-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll do the icing. Here's my little end pieces right here. They're going to go in the oven too. Okay, I've gotten my cinnamon rolls out of the oven. And now you're going to take 2 cups of powdered sugar, 2 to 4 tablespoons of warm water. It just depends on how your atmosphere is that day. Some days it takes more, some days it takes less. I'll start with 2. And then you put 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And you know, some people like a very thick frosting on top. I prefer a light frosting, so I'll make my glaze a little bit lighter. All right, you see how that's looking right there with just the 2 tablespoons of water. But you got to be very careful because a little bit goes a long way when you're working with powdered sugar. And right here would be a thicker frosting. You see how that is? I want it a little bit more loose than that, so I'm going to put about a half a tablespoon more of water. And they're still warm, so this is going to spread good on there. So, let's see. And see, this is how I have my icing right now. And I'll just put some and spread it around. I think this is going to be a little bit of a thicker frosting than I normally do. Kind of in a hurry. I'm running a little bit late for the farmer's market, so need to get this done. But this is wonderful to be able to get up in the morning when they've been frozen and you've risen them all night, just to plop them in the oven if you're having guests or company, or just an easy breakfast on a Saturday morning. This is very quick. Also, I have something else in the oven. Sorry about the beeper. Also, well, I forgot so what I was going to say. I've forgotten. These are good leftover. They stay nice and fresh. They're good and soft. So, anyway. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. I actually ended up baking these for 13 minutes. So, you know, you just have to go with your oven. I would definitely check them after, and that is a convection oven, but I would definitely check them after about 8 minutes just to see how they're doing. Sometimes I have to turn my pan around. And now my icing's not going quite far enough. I better finish this pan, but not my little extra pan. So, but I didn't make it quite thin enough. Now, that's not going to beep anymore. Okay, now that is the way I make my sourdough cinnamon rolls. So I have promised this recipe for a long time, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But anyway, here they are.
Now, wasn't that easy? So I would like y'all to let me know down in the comments if y'all try the cinnamon rolls and how it goes for you. Also, don't forget that we do have the whole series on making your sourdough starter and sourdough bread from start to finish. Tommy will put a link for that. And let me know how things go for y'all. Happy baking! Well, good morning. As promised, for a long time, I'm going to do our cinnamon roll video. So I hope you'll enjoy. So I would like you to let me know once y'all try it at home. Also, I mentioned in the video that if you, I know y'all can do it just like I did it. I believe I mentioned in the video. If not, no, just start that up.